Rachel, I think that Marcia is the 869.
Okay, yeah, I put her back in.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, it is 6 o'clock.
I call this meeting to order for January the 12th, 2020, our first meeting for the new year. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Now, do you have the video there?
Mute her. Okay, yes, sir. Mayor Richard Boss,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nadia Sykes,
Here.
Commissioner Sharon McDonald,
A minute ago.
I'm here.
There she is.
Commissioner Josh Reardon,
Here.
Commissioner Susan Payne,
Here.
Commissioner Dusty Wright,
Here.
Commissioner Jason Baldwin,
Present.
City Manager Brian Caesar,
Here.
City Attorney Patria Bengoshe.
Here.
The clerk is present. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Rachel. If everyone would please stand for the invocation that will be given by Commissioner McDonald, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. It will be led by Commissioner Reardon.
As we go before the throne of God, we ask the Lord to bless this meeting and to bring about changes that will affect the city in a positive way. We ask you to bless all of the people that sit on this commission, especially the people who are in leadership. We ask that you do all the things that we need at this moment. We don't need anything else right now, but we just need the wisdom and the grace of God to guide us through. And we will be so careful to give you the praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please follow me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners McDonald and Reardon. We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Baldwin to approve the agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Hi, you're going to have to unmute yourself when it comes time for you to talk.
Is that roll call? No. We'll talk, all those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. The agenda is approved. Move on to presentations. Update City Commission on the current City of Alamogordo Comprehensive Plan adopted April 4th, 2018. We have very own Stella L., the city planner, with us tonight to give us a presentation. Good evening, Stella.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Commission, City Manager Caesar. Since the current comprehensive plan was adopted in April of 2018, we have had a change in members of our city commissions. So therefore, I would like just to take a moment of your time to provide you with a brief explanation of our current adopted comprehensive plan for the city of Alamogordo and what it consists of. This will also give these new commissioners an opportunity to ask questions regarding the plan and also refresh the memory of the commission that was present in 2018. The comprehensive plan is a key policy document that assists in establishing an overall vision for the community's future growth, development, and character with a planning horizon of 20 years. The comprehensive plan also contains 10 planning elements in addition to the executive summary and community context. Each of these each of these elements describes existing conditions, issues, opportunities, and present goals, objectives, and strategies to support the community's vision and aspirations. A description of the 10 planning elements are included in our plan for your reading pleasure on our website. The 10 plan elements are land use, economic development, housing and neighborhoods, infrastructure, transportation, community facilities, community services, greenhouse gas emissions, hazard mitigation, and implementation. As I mentioned before, this is a 20-year plan which can be updated sooner if there's significant growth or change within the 10 elements that I have mentioned. In the case of the city of Alamogordo, unfortunately, there has not been very much change within the timeframe of our update in 2018. The pandemic has played a major role, not only with the potential of growth within our city, but throughout the country. The comprehensive plan is a 216-page document that can be found on our city website by selecting departments and clicking on community development. I can be reached via email or phone and will be more than glad to answer any questions from citizens of Alamogordo when they have any doubts or questions about our plan. I also have purchased thumb drives for our commissioners. Anyone interested, I have downloaded that comp plan on those thumb drives and would be happy to supply you with a thumb drive. So at this time, I'm pretty much open for questions from the commission.
Questions from anyone? Commissioner Baldwin.
It's been so long since we had a meeting, I forgot the proper way to ask to speak. I had to think about it for a minute. Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. Thank you. Actually, not a question, just a comment. Thank you for putting this on the agenda. The comp plan is something that we've talked about over the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. And I knew if I waited just long enough, Brian would, eventually get it on, or Stella would eventually get it on the agenda. So thank you. I always thought it was important to stay on top of this comp plan just because the length of time this outlines what we're supposed to be paying attention to as a community. The next 20 years after going through this COVID year has opened our eyes to a lot of different ways to go about doing business. And of course, maybe that's secondary, different things to be thinking about as far as what's important to our citizens and different ways to go about, executing our mission statement and our vision as the city of Alamogordo. So as we move forward in this, I guess this would be my only question is, what is the process for potentially making changes to this, Stella? Basically, you've provided this for people to be able to read. This has actually been on the website for quite some time. And a lot of people probably don't even know it's there, but it is a good 200, would you say 16, 218?
216 pages.
Page read. But it's also basically, and no offense to anybody, it's basically the same thing we've done for the 10 years I've been on. Everybody that's been on the commission for a long time probably knows there's big sections of this that are still good, but after this year, probably needed, chance to look at. So I'm going to ramble on about it. I think this is really important. I just kind of want to know what the steps are moving forward in reference to how we could potentially change this, how as a group and or you have in the, I think it's called your steering committee, which is everybody that basically does 98% of all the work for this, putting it together, how we're able to have input with them. Yeah, so that's my question. How do we move forward with updating this?
Yes, Commissioner Baldwin. So regarding moving forward, we would have to, of course, see what areas of the comp plan need changing, updating. At that point, we have to put together an RFP, get a consultant on board, Basically, it's a matter of getting feedback on what areas you think are important or need changing, looking at the entire 216 pages of it, and just move forward on to making it an item that we send out on RFP and hire a consultant and get going on it. We
So-
just have to go ahead and pinpoint those areas that we feel that need to be updated.
The update, the latest update, the 2018 update, you've been on commission for quite a while. A number of you have been on commission for quite a while. There was a very wide time frame before this update actually happened. I don't disagree with you once we get out of COVID. But is that in 6 months, a year? Not sure. What I was looking at, so we have plans that are updated on a regular basis, such as the 40-year water plan, something that's mandated by the Office of the State Engineer. We have to do that update every 5 years. Since the comp plan was just done in 2018 and really brought up to date, it shouldn't be as long as a process as the 2018 update. I mean, that's what we see in our 40-year water plan. It's not going to or should not cost the city as much. We definitely want, I mean, obviously the commission's input, the public input, have the steering committee, but I don't foresee major revisions to the 2018 plan when we hit that fifth year, or once we get out of the restrictions for COVID.
And I totally agree with you, city manager. I was involved when this comp plan was adopted, involved from the very beginning of it. It took us a year to get from the first step to actual adoption of the plan. I totally agree with our city manager and think that, yes, it's very important that we update certain areas, and a good comp plan is usually updated every 5 to 10 years, just depending on the changes within their communities. COVID has really put a strain on all of us and has slowed things down tremendously. So once we get out of this pandemic situation, I think that we should look at it again and look at it closely to see what needs to change.
Okay.
Any other
I just,
comments?
I really don't have, I guess I do have one more comment. I did kind of forget that we really address this every 5 years. So thank you, Stella, for reminding me.
You're welcome.
I think one of my major concerns in reference to the comp plan was the fact that what we're dealing with this year, I'm sure, you know, city manager and everybody else in leadership roles within the city are making notes about what they're having to deal with and how they're having to deal with it going through COVID. And how that could potentially, you know, possibly, you know, change anything we're doing in the comp plan. You know, as you read through those 11 items that you said, there's only a couple of areas where what we're dealing with COVID could potentially go in there and how it interacts with what we do. But I guess my question would be, could we ask staff? You know, staff is not commission role, but can we have them read through this and see if there's anything that they see that needs to be addressed immediately while commission goes through it at the same time? And then maybe we can just take the things that we both agree on that need to be updated. I don't know.
Yeah, of course we can do that.
Well, thank you for your work on that. I'd like to make a comment. I think it's a great idea to put that on a thumb drive. You got a document over 200 pages. I think that's awesome. I think maybe we should consider that, and I haven't thought it through completely, but possibly on the budget, we could do the same thing. That's also a very lengthy document, and we might consider that this year.
So
Okay,
you will
anybody else
find,
have any? Pardon
oh,
me?
I'm sorry, Mayor,
No,
excuse
go
me.
ahead.
So I'll go ahead and place those thumb drives in your mailbox here at City Hall.
That'd be excellent. Thank you.
Okay, you're
Thank
welcome.
you, Stella.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We'll move on to public comment. Rachel, do we have any public comment for this meeting?
Yes, sir, we do. We have a public comment by Mr. David Dewey, and my deputy clerk, Gutierrez, is going to actually read that for us.
To Otero County and City of Alamogordo Commissions. A national health care crisis was declared on January 31, 2020 by the Secretary of Health of the United States. You are required by law to protect the welfare and health of citizens in your jurisdictions. There are things occurring in the county and Alamogordo that you failed to take action on. According to 18 U.S. Code 1038, a federal law passed after 9/11 to prevent disinformation being distributed. A, criminal violation, 1, in general. Whoever engages in any conduct with intent to convey false or misleading information under circumstances where such information may reasonably be believed can be fined, imprisoned not more than 5 years, or both. On Friday, 12/18/20, Trent Parker's conservative news talk show on KRSY had a person named Greg from High Rolls telling people not to wear masks, that they provided no protection. This is spreading false information. He was falsely using the Spanish flu pandemic of 1917 and 1918 and said masks were useless. Yes, unlike the masks made today, those in 1918 were made out of sheer gauge that provided no protection. This Greg was also at Walmart on Indian Wells telling people this. Also on the show, they told people not to take the vaccine because the needles were large because they were implanting microscopic chips to track people. My God, how ignorant. Every cell phone made in the last 5 years has a GPS chip in it. The phone does not have to be turned on to track. The battery simply has to be charged. These types of hysterical lies need to stop. This had nothing to do with free speech. It is not free speech. It is lunatic lies from ignorant people creating hysteria. Local authorities need to use the federal law to warn these people to stop, and if they don't, they will be arrested. Last, people need to be educated concerning masks through PSAs. Paper masks cannot be worn forever. They must be thrown away after wearing once. Cloth masks must be washed after every use. Hospitals are finding by asking incoming patients, 4 out of 10 of them wearing paper masks, have been wearing them for months on end. Cloth masks must be washed after each daily use to prevent bacteria infections from the mask. Again, 5 out of 10 people did not know this. Latest current COVID numbers in Otero County and Alamogordo. As of 1/6/21, New Mexico hospitals are at 110 to 140% ICU capacity. COVID-19 is now the leading cause of death in the U.S. If a person in Alamogordo needs specialized emergency surgery, there is no hospital within a 6-state area that will take the patient. Otero County, 36% increase in COVID cases since 12/5/20. 542 new cases in 1 month. Total now 2,187 cases in Otero County. That is approximately 19 cases a day. 2 months ago, Otero County was seeing only 1 to 2 cases a week. This is an 800% increase from 2 months ago, nearly a 30% daily increase over the last 2 months. This has resulted in a 60% death rate, 30 deaths in the last month, 1 death a day. And the cases are increasing daily. Despite the increase, Gerald Champion has been coping, but will not be able to sustain a surge like El Paso has seen. Die at home because there will be no room at the hospital or medical staff to care for them. Holloman will only be able to provide limited help. Mandate needed. No large social gatherings is not being adhered to in the area. Enforcement of the mandate needs to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. That's the only public comment we had.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rachel. Move on to the city manager's report. Brian, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yeah, just a couple of items. Last Friday, a PSA went out to the community, but just wanted to remind everyone, we're going to have a very large water outage in about 40 minutes. scheduled to last from 7 o'clock tonight till up to 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's going to reduce pressure. Possibly the upper portion of the zone will be without water. The area that's going to be affected is from First Street to Indian Wells, the west side of Scenic, all the way down to Washington. So a very large portion of the city is going to experience lower water pressure, possibly some water outages as you get closer to the west side of Scenic. As a number of you, I'm sure, are aware, Eric Raza retired just prior to the new year. Obviously, because we have Teresa being trained tonight. I've also been informed, I think a number of you know that Mark Threadgill, our water billing manager, will be retiring on the 19th of this month. We've also been notified that Johnny Crane, the manager of the zoo, he will be retiring at the end of this month. And most recently, I was told, and he has already briefed his employees. Jim LeClaire, the fire chief, he will be retiring. His last day will be April 30th. So just want to let you know. And all I have right now.
Thank you, Brian. We'll move on to remarks and inquiries by the city commission. Would any commissioner like to make a comment at this point? I guess not.
Mr.
We have
Mayor.
one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just didn't want to forget before the end of the meeting, but to those people that are retiring, I'm sure the commission would like to say thank you for your service. Some of you have been with us for quite a long time. Some of those people have been with us off and on for quite a long time, but I'm happy to see hopefully people are being able to move on to bigger and better things. And congratulations and thank you so much for everything you did for the city of Alamogordo.
We also have a comment from Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Just very briefly, I wanted to take a moment and thank David Dewey for providing public comment about something that he's extremely passionate about. I know that all of us have been kept up with information from Mr. Dewey, and I know that I speak for the commission when I say that we appreciate the fact that he's doing that. Commissioner Baldwin, I was going to say something different with regard to all these people who are retiring. I was going to suggest we pass a resolution and not accept their retirement paperwork.
Unfortunately, it's not on the agenda.
I know that. I just want to thank them as well. Those are 4 really key people in the city, and it's bittersweet to see them leave. But as Commissioner Baldwin said, they're probably moving on to something that they're going to find pretty exciting. But we will miss them, and we hope we see them around the city during their retirement. So
I'm sure we will. Thank you for your comments. If there's no other remarks or inquiries, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would any staff member or commissioner like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
I need to.
Manager Brian Caesar.
Item number 7, that's why we have someone on for comment tonight. Like to have that pulled from the consent.
Any others? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as adjusted by removal of item 7, the consent agenda, approval of the consent agenda? I hear a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon, and I hear a second.
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wright. Will clerk please call the roll?
Jason Baldwin,
Aye.
Nadia Sykes,
aye.
Josh Rudin,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Misty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne,
Aye.
and Richard Buss.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Move on to items removed from the consent agenda. Item number 7, approve the resident parking only and designated mobility disabled resident parking only signs located for the purposes of determining continuance of each location. I believe we'll have information on that by Teresa Gutierrez. Teresa's not here.
Sir,
Brian-
actually,
Brian- Oh, she's there. Brian, did you want to comment on that? You're the one that pulled the item.
Mrs. Humble is on the line. There are, if in your review of the packet, there are two signs or 2 different properties where we're making the recommendation to commission to remove the signs. One is at the resident's request. Mrs. Humble lives on the corner of 3rd and New York. And the way our ordinance is written, there is really no latitude from staff, whether it's a residential parking only sign or a designated mobility disabled resident parking only sign. Part of for both types of signs, our ordinance states good cause must include the reason why the applicant's residence contains inadequate parking to meet the needs of the applicant. Ms. Humble's home on 3rd and New York. She has a driveway and parking on the New York side, but she does utilize a side entrance, which is on 3rd Street, and that's where the signage is. There is a business just to the west on 3rd Street that has somewhat limited parking. And part of her application and request was because of the noise that's created, the people coming in and out and parking on the side of the property. But she is on the line to talk to you more about why she feels that the signs should remain.
What happened?
Oh, Rachel's sharing photos of the
Oh, I
homes.
see. Okay.
Those residents on 3rd and New York. So you can see the driveway, the vehicle parked in front of the home, where she's bouncing the cursor up and down. That's the signage on the 3rd Street side that pretty much, well, not pretty much, does take up the entire side of the property on 3rd Street. And I'm not sure if Rachel, you need to unmute Ms. Humble or if she has to do that.
so I am asking her to unmute herself. Ms. Humble, can you mute yourself? So you should find the button on the left-hand side on the bottom.
Hello?
There she is.
Hello?
We hear you now.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening to you too.
Okay, Ms. Humble, this is your opportunity, Ms. Humble, to
Oh, okay.
about the sign
Okay.
and why you're requesting that the city commission grant, which would be somewhat considered a variance to the ordinance.
Okay. All right. Even though I don't like all the noise and the traffic and etc., I still value my health and safety more. I carry all my trash, water, and groceries at the 3rd Street gate, which is right there by where the cutout is to where the old garage used to be. I carry water in 1-gallon jugs under my arm, one at a time. Trash and groceries under my arm also through the 3rd Street gate. My living quarters, my laundry room, my kitchen, my dining room are all off from 3rd Street. Part of my problem My disability is stepping up a curb or steps, especially with carrying any kind of weight with me. I avoid curbs and steps when I can. I have been disabled since October 2009. I have an award letter from the Social Security office that I am disabled. And that's it for me.
Commissioner Payne.
Can we put that picture back up for a second? I just want to make sure I understand it correctly.
She asked Rachel to put the picture.
Okay. So this is the house. This silver car is that your car, Miss Humble?
Yes,
It's silver.
Subaru.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. But then you want, okay, so what about in front of your house? There's not a no parking sign there, right?
No, I don't park my vehicle on the street because it's been hit.
Okay, right. So what I'm asking is, do people have the ability to park in front of your house?
Yes. Yeah.
Anybody can?
Pardon?
Anybody can park in front of your house, right? That's not blocked off. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, there isn't any restriction on the New York side. That's correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Mrs. Humble, this is Nadia Sykes. I was just curious about something. Has having the designated mobility resident parking sign on the 3rd Street side of your home, has that helped you?
Yes, I use it all the time when I can, when there's not somebody parked there.
Okay.
That's how I carry in my groceries and trash and anything, water.
And removing it would cause would cause you some issues, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got more questions.
Mr. Payne.
No, sorry. Okay, so is that whole block? I'm sorry, this is 3rd Street and it's from New York to White Sands, is that right?
Not New York, but New York to the rear of the property.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, is there a business in front? So the business is in front of it. Is that what?
The business is to the backside of the property. There is an alleyway separating the home and the business.
Okay.
That's alleyway right behind the white garage, secondary structure, whatever that is.
Okay, and I'm sorry, just so I understand, you can't use the New York side because everything goes to the back of your house? Is that what you're saying?
No, I do park on the New York side.
Okay.
I don't leave my car parked on 3rd Street, no.
Right, so when you say you have to take your trash out, I guess that's where I'm confused. Where do you take your trash to that you have to have that part cleared?
The dumpster in the alley, I don't carry it. I put it in, I move my car around on 3rd Street, and then I bring my trash out of the house, put it in the back into my car, and drive it up the alley.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, because I'm still a little confused about this.
Mr. Baldwin.
My question is more for Brian, but I think I'm kind of understanding the issue you're having, ma'am. But Brian, could you walk us through why we're recommending these come down, and were they supposed to be put up in the first place?
So when the request came in, there was a single sign that said either said handicap parking only or just mobility disabled resident parking only. I don't remember exactly what the sign said because it was about a year ago. Ms. Humble was having issues because of the business, the dispensary to the rear of her property. With the original sign, or anyone that has that type of sign, cars or other vehicles, you can't park within 10 feet to either side of the sign. Most people don't go in and read our ordinances. So from my understanding and talking with Ms. Humble, people were going to the dispensary, parking to one side or other of the sign, parking to the west of the sign, and that was interfering with her bringing in the water, taking out the trash, etc. The only other signage we had to block or to designate that area is the signage that you see up right now. What I failed to do was actually pull up the ordinance and review what the ordinance actually said. So when it was approved a year ago, yes, I did approve it. What I missed was the good cause must include the reasons why the applicant's residence contains inadequate parking to meet the needs of the applicant. Ms. Humble does have parking to the front of the property. There is a driveway. So the signage that went up doesn't meet what is in the ordinance, and that's why it's coming to commission and one of the ones that's being recommended for removal. There isn't any wiggle room in the ordinance to say, yeah, you can go ahead and keep it, because she does have adequate parking to the front of the property.
So prior to the residents only signs on the west side of her property, there was an actual handicap, what was the word used for that?
Mobility disabled resident parking only sign.
Okay, so there was a sign there that was supposed to help the situation, but because it wasn't helping, we put up the residents only sign.
This wasn't typically when you have the handicap parking or resident handicap parking signs, they're in a strictly residential area for the most part. So where there have been issues in the past with maybe a neighbor or people that are visiting a neighbor, whatever, where they are parking in the area that couldn't be parking in, it's very easy to go and educate the neighbor or the people that are parking there. Because the business to the west of her property is not because it's a dispensary, but because you have people coming out, they may be in the shop 3 to 5 minutes.
Because it's popular. That's okay. You can say it.
Yes. By the time PD is notified, and assuming that the police department, they don't have higher priority calls, we're not able to get someone down there and try and educate these people that are coming in and out and are gone and probably don't go back for a month. I'm not quite sure how those prescriptions work, but I don't know how often you go for refills.
I would like to make a comment, because I have been on the street, and I've seen Miss Humble, bring in her groceries from the side. It takes her a number of trips to go in, but her kitchen is in the back, in the rear of the property. And based on where the gate is, where you can actually go into the property and get into the kitchen, she has a day room where she could actually drop the groceries, the water, and things like that onto the table, so that she can actually get in the house and then off the street. But that is a way for her to get in the house. If you look at the front of the house, yes, there's ample parking in the front of the house, but she's got to park, or she's got to come through the living room the dining room and then go to the kitchen, which is a longer route for her to get there. And I said, because of her condition, you're always looking to make sure that the quality of her life is pretty good. So that's the reason why, when I had the conversation with her, is that she just wants to be able to use that back area. And before, it was not a problem because the traffic was not as busy as it is. But you can imagine, coming from the store with a lot of groceries and water and whatever else, and finding out that your parking spot is taken. So she will have to leave that in the car until, a time when she can pull it around. And she also takes her trash she can drag her trash out of the kitchen onto, the area or through the area in the back, and then put it in the car because she can't carry that bag that far. And, she just puts it in the car and drives it around so she can take the trash. So you can see it's not so much the noise and, some of the other things. It is that, nobody wants to be living in an area where, things are so busy. But I think what she's asking for is just the ability to come out of the house and get her groceries and then just go back in. And then she can move her car later on so that she can just have, like I said, the quality of life of not having to drag and maybe injure herself at another time just because of all the things that she has to do just to get things in the house. So that's my statement.
Mr. Mayor.
I got a comment real quick.
Well, I think our city attorney had her finger up first. Patria, you got a comment?
Certainly a commissioner can go before me. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine.
All right, Commissioner Wright.
One thing that I just found too, the pictures in the documents in the agenda packet do not show. There actually is a side gate on the side of the house because I didn't see that in the other pictures. But there is one on 3rd Street, a side gate that gets into the back of the property that I didn't see in the other pictures. Because I was confused at first too with no gates or no access on the south side of the house.
No, there definitely is. There definitely is a gate in you can see the original curb cut from when the property was originally built.
Would it not be an option to move those signs to the New York side or just shorten up the resident parking only portion of that?
Mr. Mayor, I got a comment as well.
Who was that? Commissioner
Reardon. Brian, you said originally it had a disabled sign up there and then we had to switch to these two, but how long has the other sign, I know you said these were installed about a year ago, but how long ago was the disabled resident sign put in?
So if I may, I can
answer that.
Great.
Brian?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rachel.
If I may, I actually have the work order in front of me. So it was originally for 2 signs, and it was paid for on February 28th, which means it was approved by the commission just before February 28th. I'm sorry, not the commission, Brian, because it only goes to the city manager when it is a mobility disabled resident parking only. Those by ordinance do not come to the commission. They come to the city manager. So originally, what the 2 applicants, there was 2 applicants, Ms. Geraldine Roman and Marcia Humble. They each asked for a sign. So there was 2 signs to be placed under the mobility disabled resident parking only signs. And the reason for the request reads, need for normal privacy, doors slamming because of local business causes noise, and no place to park and loud music is what the application and our work order states.
Does it have a date, though? I was asking how long the sign had been installed prior to City Manager Caesar having the only parking signs put there.
So I believe that there was that part, Brian, I think my understanding is there wasn't the actual signs that were requested. The residential ones were the ones that were put in place?
Well, originally the handicap signs were placed. But as I explained earlier, by ordinance, you can't park to 10 feet of either side of that sign. So there were two of those because there were two applicants. Now that because of the business, nature of the business, the amount of traffic, we had to go to a different type of sign because the general public didn't understand. They would park to one side of the sign and they'd park to the back side of the sign. As soon as they were outside,
I think we get that. How about, I'm sorry, Josh, go ahead.
No, but how long had the disabled resident sign been installed prior you having these resident only signs been put in? I mean, has it been 5 years, 10 years?
The two signs would have gone in, like Rachel said, in February.
They've only been in since February of last year.
But then within a month and a half installed, because the general public, the people that
the patrons of the business, yes,
they weren't. There were issues because they were parking in the area they shouldn't be parking in. And
So-
like I said earlier, I did not review the ordinance. And if I had reviewed the ordinance, then the application would have been denied because there is the parking in front of the property. And again, staff doesn't have the latitude. I mean, this is what we have to follow. Commission can.
Commissioner Payne.
Okay, so let me just clarify. First of all, I was not suggesting that Ms. Humble could go in on the New York side. What I was actually wondering was, and I guess it's a question for Ms. Humble. So if we allow that to continue to be blocked off on 3rd Street, if the people that are going to the business in front of you park in front of your house, you're not going to have a problem with that, right?
Normally I pull my car around under the tree because you can't get in and out of the driveway if you block that off too.
Oh.
And that's what's happened.
Okay,
Is I would park my car out there and they'd block me in. That's a busy place. Very busy.
So what she's describing is she gets up and over the curb on the 3rd Street side and could park her car on her property. But the patrons of the business at certain times would block her in because they're parking along the curb and gutter in the public right of way.
Right. No, I understand that. What I'm saying is, if we keep those signs up that say resident parking only, right? That clears 3rd Street, right? That makes it so only the residents can park on 3rd Street, correct? So what I'm asking is, what's that? Is that right?
On the north side of 3rd Street, yes.
Right on the north side where the signs are. Right. Okay. So in the alternative to parking on 3rd Street would be if they parked, and this is just a hypothetical, I'm just throwing this out, but what if they parked in front of her house and walked over around the corner to the business? Would that be a problem for Ms. Humble? In front of your house on the New York side, would that be a problem for you?
Yes, because how am I going to, because I've been blocked in there.
See, I'm just trying to figure out if that
I can
happens.
park on the street.
I get it. I'm just trying to figure out if that happens, how do we prevent that? Because we can't do resident parking only signs in front on New York and on 3rd Street, right? So do you see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to figure out, like, is the issue you don't want them parking anywhere near your house, or is the issue you just don't want them parking on 3rd Street because you don't have access? Because I'm just trying to figure out, I would just suspect that they're going to park. I gotta be honest with you. I didn't even know that business was there. So this was, and I didn't know about it until I saw this on the agenda the other day. This is the first I'd heard about it. So, but now that I know what the business is, I would suspect that it's probably a pretty busy establishment, right? And so I'm just asking if they park, like if they were to park in front of your house rather than on 3rd Street, I'm just throwing it out there, would you also have an issue with that? Because then my question would be, is the issue accessibility, or is the issue you just don't want them parking anywhere near your house? And I'm just asking the question.
No, doesn't have anything to do with that. With
Okay.
me, with
Mr. Baldwin?
me not wanting anybody to park. Pardon?
No, that's fine. You answered my question. That's all I wanted to know. I just wanted to know if it would be an issue if they parked on the New York. So obviously we can't stop them from parking on the New York side because there's no sign there that says that they can't, and it is on the street, right? But I'm just wondering if that's an issue for you as well. That's all.
Mr.
No.
Mayor,
As long as they don't block me in, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Baldwin,
Mhm.
Rachel had a comment. Can she, and then I'll come to you, okay? Rachel?
Yes, so in speaking with Mrs. Humble last week, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Humble, you let me know that Ms. Geraldine Roman does no longer live there, and she was one of the applicants for one of the signs.
Yeah, because it's a rental, I rent here.
Yeah, so where there was 2 signs, now it should be reduced to 1. Patria, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will.
Thanks, Brian.
Like I said, staff, we have to follow what's in the ordinance. I don't expect commission to try and solve this issue. What I believe you can do, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Patria, you can direct me, staff, to work with Ms. Humble and the business owner, the dispensary, and see if this is the direction the majority of the commission's wanting to go, see if we can come to a reasonable accommodation for both the business and the property owner.
I personally think that's a great idea that we do that.
If I can,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make sure too, because we're not talking about the ordinance, and the ordinance directs the commission. It says that the determination to post a residence with residential parking only signs shall be made by the city commission after good cause is shown by the applicant. And the ordinance actually says that good cause must include the reasons why the residence contains inadequate parking to meet the needs of the applicant. So and it's fine if we decide that, Ms. Humble needs this for other reasons other than parking, adequate parking, but then we're going to need to look at changing the ordinance and the reasons why the commission would like to allow, restricting parking on a public right of way. So right now, the city's laws say that it's got to be done only for reasons of inadequate parking. If we're going to make the decision for an alternate reason, then we also need to amend the ordinance so that we give the same opportunity to every citizen who may live near a business or a busy residence.
Which is my fear.
Mr. Baldwin,
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor, but that's my concern. It's not that, I understand and I think, it's a reasonable request based on what she needs it for. My concern is how many other people are we going to have? I agree. I used this example the other day. The people that live across the street from me, I live off of 10th Street, and you make a right, you go up 10th Street, you make a right, you go onto my street. I happen to live on the west side of the street. And so if somebody is visiting my neighbor across the street who's on the east side, typically they park in front of my house because they don't want to make a U-turn, and they're not going to go all the way down the street before me and go all the way back up Abbott and come around. So they're just going to park in front of my house. It drives me crazy. It makes me crazy because then it takes up parking in front of my house, but it's a residential street and they have every right to park there. So I just want to make sure that we're doing this for the right reasons. because I do think that if we do this, we are setting a precedent. And so we just need to be sure that we're doing this for the right reasons, which is why I asked about parking in front of her house. I want to make sure that we're doing this because she genuinely needs, you know, to be able to access her house or whatever, and not because we just don't want people parking in front of our houses because of a business. That, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But
I do believe that.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Thank you. Some of my comments were actually just made by fellow commissioners and staff in the last 5 minutes. But basically, we have a resident that qualifies for a certain type of sign that should give her access to her house, correct? That sign didn't work, so residents only seemed to work, which the fact that handicap access sign trumps residents don't, or doesn't trump residents only sign is just a mystery to me, that people would ignore the handicap one, or at least not know the rules that they can't box people in. I think that was the kind of issue. But we have a resident that's in need of something to help give her access to the south side of her, the south side of her house. By ordinance, we shouldn't have the residents only. So my recommendation is we should take the residents only out. Instead of having one sign up or maybe two signs, put 3 signs of the handicap up. My question would be, can we paint the curb blue to give other people the idea that that's handicap parking as well? You know, because the sign may not indicate that. And I have a couple other things too. And have we even heard from the dispensary? Have they complained that, or said they're for taking these signs down so they have parking for their business?
They would prefer to have the area narrowed because they do have limited parking, and that is public right of way. So now with only the one applicant, the area would need to be reduced anyway. The reason the resident only parking sign seemed to work a little bit better than the handicap only sign, or resident, whatever the original sign said, is because the resident only parking signs have arrows showing this is the area you can't park in. In saying earlier, if majority of the commission says staff, please work with the property owner and what I would be looking at doing would be removing the 3 signs, going back in with the 1 sign, and then exactly what you were talking about, painting the curb.
Hanging it long enough to where she doesn't get boxed in, and she can have access to it. I don't want to Commissioner Payne and the other commissioner that mentioned it too. Every year and a half, we have a residents only parking thing come on the commission, and it's ironically very debated on, you know, which direction we go with it, because it always seems to be like a matter of convenience as opposed to a matter of need. And I know we're not really dealing with that, but I would also argue, because I haven't argued with Patria in a while, that the exact ordinance that she read to us in reference to maybe the homeowner can change the way she's asking for the residents only parking sign to she doesn't have adequate parking, instead of doesn't have access to the south side of her house. It sounds like she doesn't have adequate parking when that place is busy, which warrants a residents only sign.
I agree with you, Commissioner Baldwin. Sorry, I'm not going to argue with you this time. I just think that if we're going to put 3 signs up that and essentially block off, you will know the distance better than I do. You know, it's not 20 feet space to park 1 car. Then we're really saying for her 1 vehicle, we're going to give her a whole half of a block. Brian will know better how long that
it looks like half.
Narrowly tailor it so that she will never get locked in, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are my 2 options.
It should now be a 20-foot area as opposed to a 100 to 120-foot area.
There's the numbers.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I got one more comment on that as well.
Commissioner Red.
Too is, you know, this business, this lady's home is in an R1 district. I'm assuming R1, R2, somewhere around. This business that moved in there is probably in a C1 or C3. So really, the patrons of the business shouldn't even be parking in the R1, parking across the street in the parking lot there across Third Street.
Good point.
There is ample parking in that parking lot. I know it's probably a private parking lot, but
Yes.
when this business moved into that building, they knew that the parking was not ample. You know, there's just very limited amount of space there. So I personally would be in favor of either leaving the signs up or modifying it a little bit, but to allow her the access that she needs. Because based on some past experiences with businesses such as these in a different location in the city when I was on commission previously, the patrons don't always treat the neighbors in the best way. And sometimes they can become overwhelming and then it starts to cause problems. Not saying that it's not a reputable business or anything like that, but you know, I personally would be in favor of leaving it up. If we need to tweak the sign a little bit or whichever. Like I say, they've got ample amount of parking straight across the street in that parking lot.
That is a private parking lot. And my understanding is when those patrons of the dispensary try and use that parking lot, they are off by the, I forget what business it is, but that parking is for their customers, and they do chase those people off. As for a business, an area zone for business for commercial purposes, right next to a residential area, we do not have any rules on the books that say if you're there for commercial purposes, you can't park on the public right of way. And public right of way is public right of way.
I agree to some extent, but when you have business and that many patrons, I mean, when you got people that are in and out and that type of business is very busy. I think there's 3 of them right there within about a mile of each other on White Sands Boulevard that have recently opened in the last 2 or 3 years. And you can always tell when they get a shipment in because the amount of traffic in those locations is extraordinary. So, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but you know, I can sympathize with this resident right there. You know, she probably lived there for a long time, and then this business moves in. Used to be a water store that's in there now. It's a dispensary, and I'm sure the traffic is, you know, enormous.
Yeah, the new product is a little more
sought after,
popular than the water store was. Yes.
Yes, but.
Commissioner Payne.
I know where you're talking about now. I didn't know that. I really didn't. Isn't there like is it like a direct TV or something there too?
Yeah, right on the corner.
Yep.
Okay. Had no idea. Okay. So that's why I asked about parking in front of our house, because I guess I just imagine that if they can't park there, they're going to park where they can. I don't know. I'm admittedly a little naive when it comes to that type of business, but that would be my assumption. I'm kind of in the camp of maybe just narrow it a little bit.
Well, with the one applicant, if the majority of the commission, you can pass the reapproval of all the existing signs, the removal of the one that the resident requested to be removed, and then you can direct staff to work and modify the existing to meet what's in the ordinance.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm kind of.
I make a motion for that.
I will second. I'll second.
I'll second it too.
Ready to say that. You didn't give me a chance. All right, Jason. It's okay.
Motion by
Okay.
Jason, second by Josh.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Baldwin. We have a second from Commissioner Reardon. Any further? There's no further discussion. Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Could we clarify the motion?
Could we clarify the motion, Brian?
Clarify the motion for you. So it's approval of the recommendations that for the reapproval of the existing signs, the removal of the one that the resident requested removed, and for city staff to work with the resident at 301 New York and to reduce the size of the existing blocked area.
Brian, would that include having a discussion with the business owner to maybe acquire some cooperation?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you.
Oh,
So we have a
excuse me a
motion,
minute.
a
This is
second.
Marcia. Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Who's this?
Hey, can I speak for just a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No. So what I understood, I mean, maybe I'm out of line here, but maybe what I understood is that you want to take one sign out?
So right now you have 3 signs. When the original request was approved, it was for 2 signs because there were two people that met the criteria living in the home. Now it's just yourself. So you would only qualify for 1 sign. What I would do is come down and actually meet with you, take you out, show you exactly what we're looking at. We would go back to the 1 sign, but then I would have the city crew come in and actually paint the curb blue to designate the area that no one else should be parking in. And then I would definitely want to get with you on the sign placement so that it's in an area. So it's where you would normally park. So we're blocking off the right area. And you would have that 10 feet to each side of the sign, the 20 feet that you would.
The area that denies access, the
other than
denies parking. Sorry for the air quotes.
Exactly. But I would be meeting with you, Ms. Humble, and working out the details.
Okay, I do appreciate that. I'm kind of lost here.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. I'm presuming all votes were aye, and we have a 7-0. Am I correct? Okay, 7-0. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mrs. Humble.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you
ma'am.
very much.
You're
Okay, well-
welcome. Thank you. Everybody have a good evening.
You
Thank
do the
you.
same, ma'am. We'll move
Thank
on
you. Bye.
to new business. Item 8, consider an act upon approval of change order number 8, RFQ number 2014-005 to Bohannon Houston, Inc., related to the engineering and design of the Bonito Lake Restoration Project, an amount not to exceed $57,275.65, including the Mexico Works receipts tax. We have with us tonight Bob Johnson, our engineering manager, to give us some information on that. Bob, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the commission, City Manager Caesar. The item before you is a change order number 8 to Bohannon Houston. They have been the engineer of record for the Bonito Lake project since approximately 2013 or 2014. 2014. And we are in the process now of engaging them to redesign and repackage all of the permanent improvements to the lake. If you'll recall, back on October 27th, the commission approved a construction loan to facilitate actual building of these permanent improvements, the catwalk, the dam refacing, improvements to the intake tower, and so on. This particular change order to Bohannon Houston is for the engineering and design of those changes. They were originally designed several years ago, but they were combined with the current project involving the sediment removal. So they'll basically repackage everything, update things to update the design requirements to regulatory requirements, and then we'll proceed with advertising, bidding all of the permanent improvements that were not funded several years ago.
Any questions of Bob?
I make a motion to approve. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner
I
Rubin,
just had
sorry.
a quick, Bob, you said it's,
Commissioner Redden.
yeah, Bob, you said they just got to redesign it and then repackage it so they can get it. That's what you said?
Yeah, I misspoke. It's not a redesign. They're basically going to repackage all of the work involving the permanent improvements, current regulatory standards. The design as it is was sent to the Office of State Engineer Dam Safety Bureau because they have to permit quite a bit of it as far as the dam refacing work on the intake tower, as well as the catwalk to it. And they've already reviewed that design and came back with quite a few comments wanting some additional design work done. So that's where I mentioned redesign. It's actually supplementing the current design with the additional information that the Dam Safety Bureau is asking for. And that's for regulatory compliance because they will be the ones permitting the work.
Okay, so basically we got to spend this almost 60 grand to appease the state.
Yes, sir.
Their requirements.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, it seems like an awful lot of money to for something that probably hasn't changed much. It's probably just who the director or an employee changed.
Well, we thought it was kind of strange where they're asking for a lot of earthquake related criteria be put in this design, but
in New Mexico,
they are the regulating agency.
I understand. Okay.
Any other questions of Bob? If not, do I hear a motion to approve item 8, change order number 8, RFQ number 2014-005? Do I hear a motion to approve it?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Baldwin to approve item 8. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Sykes. All those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Pardon me?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. We'll move on to item 9, consider an act upon approval of a new position in the Alamogordo Police Department for an inspection of public records act records clerk. And we have with us our police chief, Richard Denton, this evening to give us some information. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner, City Manager. Come before you this evening asking for you to approve this position for IPRA records clerk. Just giving you some history behind this a little bit. There's some numbers that are attached with your packets. I believe in 2018 there were 351 public records requests that went to the city clerk's office. That doesn't include what come into my department. Out of those, only 28 were for us. Just going through there, you get 2023, she had 326 record requests. Of those, 235 of them come from my department. So that means the rest of the city only had 91. This is just her count. I don't have a count on what the people that come in our lobby and say, I need to get this report. So my records clerks have to redact a report before it can go out to the person coming in asking for that report also. These aren't even sent over to the city clerk's office. Then what we're dealing with the new body camera law is we have a redaction tool to redact video now. So what happens if I'm going to use the worst case scenario. We have a homicide, and so I have 4 detectives on that scene and maybe 2 or 3 officers dealing with that, and they're out there for 10 hours. That's basically 70 hours of video. If somebody comes in and IPRAs that, that's 70 hours of video that somebody has to sit there and watch and redact. It already is overwhelming for Rachel. There's no doubt. This position is needed. And I'll be honest with you, down the road, depending on what happens, I could be coming back and asking for another one. This body camera law is really going to hinder this position. It's going to make it, it's going to be very time consuming when everybody starts requesting all this body camera footage. And I mean, you can just off the numbers, you can see how many have went through Rachel's office, and so many people are asking for body camera footage with everything now because they know we have to record everything that every call we go on. There's going to be the minimum of one camera if there's just one officer on scene. If that officer's there for an hour, or if it's a 2-officer type call, they're there for an hour, and that becomes 2 hours of body camera footage somebody has to go through in the event someone asks for a public records request on it. But I'm open for questions. If you have any questions about that, those are the main reasons that we need this. It's a very important position, it's not going to go away.
Does any commissioner have any questions of Chief?
Quick question.
Commissioner
Brian, I think it's a Brian question, but where are we going to pull the money from, the funding of this position? It's almost 50,000 a year.
Right now,
They're going to come out of the clerk's budget? Is it coming out of PD's budget, or both? Or
it'll be coming out of the general fund. At this time, Richie, now obviously the reason it's coming to you is because we're outside of our budgetary process. This is a new position. I did not ask Richie to say, sacrifice one of your vacant police officer positions, but he does have and has had through this entire fiscal year quite a number of openings. I don't foresee that changing in the new fiscal year. I mean, hopefully it does, and he's able to become fully staffed. But as we go through, or actually we're in the beginning stages of putting together next year's proposed budget, this position would be factored in and would be funded from the general fund. I'm not recommending that we pull money from Rachel's area to support the new position in PD. She is already, with her part-time position and the issues that we had surrounding COVID and whatnot, she has already lost a part-time person.
And to speak to that a little bit, because I did pull the numbers. So for PD's operational line, which is where their officers and their admin staff and everybody is paid out of, right now they're at 33.8%, where every other department in the city that has been fully staffed is in between 50 and 55%. So they are definitely seeing a substantial cost savings this year. And then, as Brian said, we would factor it in during our budget roll.
Okay. And I say just because we have the cost savings, we still have to budget, and it's still got to all be there. So, but okay.
We have to budget it, but if we listen to the chief, we're being overwhelmed.
I understand. I understand.
How do we avoid it? I mean, what else can we do?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we got the money to pay for it, because we are mid-year and we do have fairly tight budget this year, I'm sure. So I'm sure next year's not going to be any better. If not worse than this last year. So just got to ask the question.
Commissioner Payne.
Well, one thing I wanted to say is I think I recall maybe last fall, I believe the sheriff's department actually created the same kind of position.
That's correct.
Is that right? Specifically for the sheriff's department. So obviously it's a trend. It's not just us. The other thing I wanted to say, just a comment, is kudos to the city, because we only had less than 100 IPR requests that were actually for the city. Okay. It could have been because of COVID, who knows, but kudos to the city. And
I don't know whether you should advertise that or not.
We all want to take bets on why. Anyway, moving on. So with that, I would make the recommendation that we approve the new position for the Alamogordo Police Department for an Inspection of Public Records Act records clerk.
You're making a motion?
I'm making the motion. Did I say
I have a
recommendation?
motion
Motion.
from Commissioner Payne to approve item 9, which is approval of a new position for Alamogordo Police Department Inspection Public Records Clerk. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second it.
I have a second from Commissioner Wright. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. I'm presuming it's 7-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Hey, Chief, thank you
Hey,
very much.
Chief, before you leave, that comes with the caveat of you don't retire on us over the next 5 years, like everybody else is retiring.
I can tell you that I probably will not be here past July 31st of 2024.
Okay, that's good enough. That's good enough. Okay, thank
I
you.
also think he wins for best backdrop tonight. I'm gonna nominate him.
I agree.
I'll take it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Move on to item 10, appointments to boards and committees. And I've got some appointments to make here. I'm going to go over all of the boards and committees that we have here where we have openings and include those where we have applicants. Airport Zoning Board, we have one city vacancy. There's no applications have been received. Alamogordo Promotions Board, we have one, and that's tourism-related vacancy. Vacancy is due to the expiring term of Mary Ann Swears. Mary Ann is interested in being reappointed. If reappointed, it will be her second term. I have very familiar with Mary Ann, and I've reviewed her application, and I'm going to reappoint her to that position, and I thank her for her past service. We really appreciate it. So is there any objection to that? If not, Mary Ann is going to continue on that board. We will move on then to the airport. Oh, no, I'm sorry. To the Alamogordo Public Library Board. There's one city vacancy. This vacancy is due to the expiring term of Michael Missy Garcia has, let's see, this will be his third term, no, second term. If reappointed, he has applied for a reappointment. And if there's no objection, I'm going to reappoint Michael to that position. Then he is so appointed, and we thank Michael. Commission thanks Michael for his work on that board. Cemetery Board, there is 2 city or county vacancies. No applications have been received. Housing Authority Advisory Board, there's one 2-year vacancy. No applications have been received. Planning and Zoning Commission, there's one vacancy. This vacancy is due to the expiring term of Andrew Gomalov. This will be his 6th term, if you can believe that, to this point. And if there's no objection, I'm going to reappoint Andrew to that Planning and Zoning Board, and I thank him for his service to this community. There's no objection, he is so appointed. If anyone is interested in serving on a board or committee, you may apply to the city clerk's office. That being said,
Mr. Mayor, I got a question on that real quick.
Commissioner
The P and Z terms, how long are they? They go at a year, 2 years?
Pardon me?
How many years do they go on their terms? Do we do them by?
Rachel, it depends on the committee.
So the P and Z is 2 years.
So he's been on there almost, this will be 10 years, and now he's going on 12 after this term?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. If there's no further business for the good of the city, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Redden to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
The second was from Commissioner McDonald. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good meeting.